Hey everyone, this is Fi. We're checking out Robot Game Early Prototype. This is a game I've not played before, don't know anything about it. We're going to give it a playtest though, and see if we can give some feedback. Got the game page open here. It says this is a game I've been working on with some friends for a while. We started throwing ideas around a while back, coming up with a story, world, gameplay elements, etc. I started to get some ideas I wanted to try to implement, so I started putting together this proof of concept, and it's been snowballing into an actual project. Still not much, but I want to share progress so far. It goes on to give the controls. We've got keyboard and gamepad controls. I've actually got my Xbox controller right here, so I'm going to be trying that out because it appears to be something like that, like a Metroidvania or platformer or something like that. So that would work well with the gamepad. So we'll try that out. There's no sound effects apparently, except for the new area discovered sound. Okay, so yeah, um, looking really interesting. Very interesting art style, but it's also like very sketchy sounds like the wrong word to use, but sketch like maybe. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Let me just check my. It looks like everything's all set. So yeah, we can grab the gamepad here, and haven't seen anything past the screen. It doesn't have like a title screen or anything, so it just kind of throws you into the game like this. It looks like I move very slowly. I guess I'll just try out the buttons then. Looks like I move. Oh, that's cool. Little Gato robot in there. Um, Very cool animations. You do have to be careful about this. Like this transition is actually, you may not think it's very long, but this is actually very long for like a menu transition. It can kind of, I think you can kind of get away with a little bit longer transitions like that if the pacing in the game isn't very fast. Um, something like an adventure game or something where it's just kind of, you know, it's a slow paced game. Uh, then this kind of thing is generally okay, but broadly speaking, it's a little bit of a no-no to go too crazy on the transition times like that. So you could definitely make that faster, I think. Really cool animations though. It does look like we have a run button. I did notice like when you jump, it seems like your speed in the air is actually a little bit faster than just walking. It's kind of funny, but it does look like we have a run button. So oh, it looks like even when I'm running though, it looks like when I jump, I get a little bit more air. I guess it's just down to the way that the air control is implemented. It also looks like, oh yeah, that's weird. So I'm not sure if it's that it might be the fact that when you jump, you inherit your initial speed and then you have some air control on top of that. I think that's what's happening because what I noticed is that like if I jump and I try and go like move backwards, um, like I have a lot less influence backwards, but if I jump and like hold forwards, it's like I accelerate forwards, so it feels weird compared to other games I've played. And yeah, just being able to like accelerate by jumping is definitely a weird thing. So I would just say um, you probably just want to cap your speed at the least uh, while you're in the air. So I would assume because most games do it this way. I would assume that like once you reach your max speed on the ground, that would also be your max speed in the air. I just have that consistent. If that makes sense to you. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if it should. Oh, that was weird. Like I did something to kind of accelerate even more than usual there. So I wonder if maybe there's some kind of speedrun stats where you can do some speed glitches or something. But yeah, let's move on from that. But it is a little weird how the jumping feels in general. Uh, Interesting. We got some AI generated greebles here. Um, so what am I doing? I'm just kind of walking across an empty space, I guess. And I don't know. Are you like a okay? Apparently, a bad guy can hurt me. Um, all right. I'm trying different buttons here to see. Although it mentions buttons on the game page, of course, I can't really remember what it said there after reading it. I do think it mentioned requiring something before you can attack. So that's something that's maybe harder to communicate to a new player. Naturally, you can't expect them to like read read a page on the internet for instructions before they play. Like I do that for demos sometimes just because of the fact that it's um, they're games that are in development, and the developer doesn't necessarily have time to implement proper tutorialization yet. So sometimes I kind of give the benefit of me stopping to actually read the game page, but most people won't actually do that. So um, yeah, it does make me wonder. It's probably fine, but I'm just wondering about like if the oops, I guess I hit the save game thing. Um, Wondering if the player might feel like they're supposed to be able to attack the enemy and just can't find the buttons for it, if you know what I mean. But I feel like other games have done this kind of thing where it's like at the start you don't have a weapon yet, um, which I guess is what's going on here. But yeah, naturally, in the future, it'd be nice to have some kind of tutorialization, but that's kind of obvious. So it does look like you can hold the jump down to get a bigger jump. One thing I did notice is that there's a lot of delay in the jumping, so um, it does seem like I mentioned, that the kind of due to the fact that you can do this extra jump by holding it down, um, the game does wait for you to let go of the button before it does the jump. So that kind of naturally creates a delay in pressing the button, because the expectation generally is when you press the button down that the jump comes out. So what I was noticing is that even in encountering this first enemy, it feels kind of off, because it's like I press the jump button and then like my character doesn't jump immediately. That's kind of one of those things that sort of been well established over time, that like when you press the jump button, if the jump comes out with a delay, it kind of ruins everyone's day, if you know what I mean. So um, yeah, it's hard to say if it's can be said to be worthwhile if you get this extra method of control where you can do like an extra big jump. Um, but that's definitely something that's going to rub people the wrong way. And it is kind of annoying. Like if I know I need to jump as quickly as possible, it's annoying to have to make this conscious choice to try to like tap the button as lightly as possible rather than just press it normally as I normally would. It's going to make it take like a little bit longer. Is this like a okay? I don't know if there's like collision on that propeller in the background there. There's a little sparkly. Okay, I don't know what the buttons are, so okay, it looks like got a memory disk. Okay, so this part doesn't respond to the thumbstick. I have to use the D-pad for that. Which is curious because the D-pad actually doesn't work in the the normal gameplay, so that's kind of funny. I do wonder if it's necessary. Oh, okay. It looks like you can press the button. You don't have to hold down the run button. You can just press it once. I do wonder if it's necessary to have the run button at all. Like, I'm not sure if that makes sense. Like, if you talk about, Super Mario Brothers is kind of the first game that kind of created that whole idea of having a run button. Um, for that game, it's kind of about just giving the player more control. So if they want or need to move more slowly, they can kind of do that more easily. That's kind of the only real justification for having like a button specifically for running for like a platformer like this. Um, and it doesn't. I mean, so far it doesn't seem to me like that it's a necessary thing. It just seems like I might as well just hold down the run button all of the time, which you kind of end up doing on Mario too. But yeah, that in my mind, that's kind of the only reason why you would have that be a thing, as opposed to just always being able to run. So, oh, okay. So I have to hit a different button. Yeah, the buttons in the these windows that pop up are like kind of changing stuff, and yeah. Again, obviously this is very early, but a little bit weird there. Is there like, all right, yeah. So I'm starting to feel there's something of a sprawl here. I'm not sure that there's actually been any. Like, can you actually go? I guess you just die if you go this way, right? Oh, No, I actually fell down somewhere. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it is non-linear. That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, once you start to get this kind of non-linear sprawl, it kind of necessitates, a lot of the time, it necessitates having a map of some sort, or else it just feels confusing, which is what I was starting to notice. Um, Good, generic. Okay, what button? All right, yeah, the buttons keep changing. So I think you need need to choose one button for your like normal general input button, but it seems like you're using every button on the base of the controller. I didn't actually. Oh, okay, Blastcaster required to activate. Yeah, just having like one interact button and have that work in the menus or in the dialogue or in uh, looking at whatever things. So I didn't. Okay, which button is pick up? So again, I can't. Yeah, I thought I picked that up before because I pressed the button and the window went away. Um, Apparently I like pressed the back button or something, but it doesn't really make sense because there were two options. One was like pick up or cancel, so I think you should probably kind of force the player to choose one of those two, you know. And what does the memory thing do? Is that for like saving? Do you have like a limited number of saves? Is that the idea? Hasn't really been indicated what that's actually doing, picking those up. All right, we got the Blastcaster, I think. Powerful and unique multi-purpose instrument capable of combat and utility applications. This kind of looks like a Resident Evil sort of thing with the background and the text, the font and everything. Um, Combat and utility, large blade. Oh, is that what that is? It's really goofy design. Like random gears stuck on it. It's kind of silly. Um, all right, operating various mechanisms. Its full potential lies in how it evolves. Suit its user with several slots available for additional modules. All right, I got it. Um, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, wait a minute. Okay. It looks like, oh, okay. That's a little strange. So the right bumper looks like does this little swipe. Oh, it looks like we can do like a little two-hit thing, I guess. Um, it roots your feet, and there's like a long follow through, and it takes a while before it starts. Okay. Yeah, this is a little janky. So after you do one of these attacks, like if I'm just holding forward and I do one of the attacks, um, when the attack finishes, I don't keep walking forward. So um, even though I'm holding the stick, so what does happen is because there's like a um, the nature of the thumbstick, where it's like the input is just slightly noisy, uh, as opposed to like a D-pad where it's very digital. Um, Eventually, like unless I hold it extremely still, like I'm trying to hold it, okay, if I can hold it still enough that I don't change the input at all, it won't keep moving forward. But as soon as there's the input updates, then it starts walking forward again. So I think what you want to do is just make sure that if the player is holding forward or backward or whatever direction they're pressing when that animation ends, that they should continue moving right away. And yeah, so the other thing is that it does feel very slow. Like there's a takes a while for the attack to come out, but it seems to take even longer for it to kind of finish up. And this is like extraordinarily slow, but I don't know what that. I guess it's some kind of like a super move or whatever. So yeah, it would feel a little bit faster if it weren't for the fact that it kind of doesn't let you keep moving immediately after it finishes. That kind of adds to the slowness of it. But yeah, in general, it does feel like the game is kind of trending towards this sort of slow and deliberate feeling, which isn't necessarily wrong, but it does have some um, I don't know, some potential for kind of feeling bad, I guess, in broad sense. Um, some people are more willing to kind of put up with that than others. Right? Yeah, it just takes so long before you can do any action again. Just waiting for that animation. Okay, that's oops. And yeah, it's a really oh, you can do like a jump attack. Again, it has like this long kind of wind up animation. Oh my gosh, and yeah, it just takes so long before you can act again afterwards. um, but yeah, the choice of buttons, like using the right bumper for attack, your like normal attack, is pretty weird. I'd much rather just use one of the face buttons. I also, this is a personal preference, but um, the way I hold a gamepad is I actually rest my index fingers on the triggers, and I kind of reach up for the bumpers as necessary. So some people, what they do is they put their index fingers on the bumpers and their middle fingers on the triggers. Um, for me, it's just more comfortable to have just my index fingers on the triggers. So what that means is that actions that are tied to bumpers are like just a little bit of a reach. Like I have to reposition them just a tiny bit to reach them. So I tend to prefer that you don't put like primary actions on those buttons, just things that you use a little bit less often, you know what I mean? Just in general, it just kind of seems to go against convention to put like a basic attack on like a right bumper as opposed to one of the face buttons. It's kind of weird. So again, you just use, see, I don't know, there's just the buttons. I feel like I just have to pick one of the buttons at random to to figure out which thing is going to proceed with the action, you know what I mean? Quite inconsistent. So we have another cliff. So last time I leapt off a cliff, it kind of led me to a new area. So I don't really know. Like it kind of goes against intuition because you feel like, you know, you're just going to jump to your death or something. But um, I don't know. Yeah, apparently that's not a thing in this game. But now I'm here. I don't really know where I am because I keep jumping off of cliffs, which kind of leads to this sense of being lost. Oh, what the heck? That can hurt you. Okay. And yeah, you get, when you get hit, there's like a long time before it gives you control back as well. So yeah, so this is really the kind of slow and deliberate idea that I mentioned before, where it's kind of like, you know, all your inputs have a certain amount of kind of delay, and you have to do a lot more sort of timing based things um, when you're trying to do combat and such. It's kind of what I find is it's sort of playing with fire a bit, where in theory it's possible to kind of craft a game around this that works well um, with this sort of slow, less responsive sort of input, but it's just there's so many ways it can go wrong at any moment. Um, just anytime you're just like stuck in an animation and you can't, like, you're trying to find enemies and you're stuck in an animation, and for the duration of that animation you can't actually respond to something that's about to happen. You know, it's sort of like you have to be able to predict a certain amount into the future in order for this to work. That makes sense. And um, even if you're extremely careful about the timings of everything, like all of the enemies and stuff, to make sure that that kind of works in a way that makes sense, so nothing can really um, happen more quickly than you have a chance to respond to. Um, they can kind of feel bad, but that's even what I just said about like making all those timings work is something that's really challenging. So that's why, in general, when I see a game that's kind of going down this path, it's like, I'm not really sure about that. You know, it's like really kind of worrying, if that makes sense. This is just, you really have to get everything just right to even have a like a chance of it not feeling like sort of an invalid way to make the game. Um, so yeah, just in general, I think it's a really good idea to consider making things more responsive and just have things, you know, come out. Have your inputs be recognized quickly on the screen, and to really avoid too much of this stuff where you do an input or you do an action and the player has to wait a long time before they get control back. Like they were just waiting for that action to finish. Stuff like that in an action game specifically is really just not a good idea in general, in my opinion. So yeah, it seems like I'm just kind of I'm wandering aimlessly and I'm continuously jumping down into places that I feel like I can't get back up. So it's sort of like I don't know if I'm splitting like is there some kind of goal that's downwards or am I just like randomly I feel like I'm just randomly jumping into pits over and over again. The art is interesting though, but yeah, like I have no sense of where I've been or where I'm going at this point. So I think yeah, that's a little bit questionable for a game that feels like a very nonlinear sort of experience where, this sense of mapping out the world is so important. Um, so at the moment, not only do you not have an actual map I can look at, but you also, um, the way that you've allowed me to progress here, where I just keep jumping off cliffs randomly and just walking in random directions and falling down and stuff, it doesn't give me any sense of like learning in a space or an area, right? Like I can't go back to any of those places that I leapt off of or anything. So yeah, I'm not really getting any of that sort of spatial learning of the area that I'm walking around in. I'm just kind of just very lost and aimless at the moment. So I guess I can yeah, see it's just like really hard to just do something as simple as what was that? As simple as like jump over the enemy here because of like the way the jumping works and the amount of latency that ends up happening with that. So that robot on the far right, he like shot a laser, and as far as I could see, like I saw him like doing this long charge up kind of thing, and then he shoots his laser kind of diagonally up and to the left, and then it looked like my character kind of got knocked back or something. Like I'm not really sure what happened there. It seemed kind of janky. Oh, I just did nothing. Or is that oh, okay. And it does look okay, so for some reason um okay. So if you're running and you press one of the oh my gosh, it's so slow. Yeah, if you're running and you press one of the attack buttons, it just doesn't do anything. It just kind of eats the inputs. That doesn't feel very good. I think you should have the attack button work in that case. Especially since, like I said before, there's not really much reason to not run otherwise. Okay, yeah. And yeah, this sort of inertial or this idea of the jumping where it kind of inherits your running inertia. Um, one of the things you can get into trouble with that is if you have this situation where you don't have the I guess the luxury of being able to like get a running start before you make a jump. Um, so because you have enemies and such, which kind of scoot around, you might want to jump over them and things like that in an action context. I don't think that works very good because you can't necessarily say, okay, I'm gonna run back to the left so I can get a running start and then jump over this guy. Like most, not only is that not necessarily an option in some cases, but most players don't really expect to have to do that. Like it's just sort of an expectation I can just be close to it and then press jump and then like hold to the right and kind of get over it. You know what I mean? Without having to like work out this running start. So if I don't have um that forward inertia when I press jump, I don't have air control that'll like do anything for me. So yeah, it's usually a more typical thing is that like you have more influence over your movement in the air and then um you do want it so that like when you press jump, obviously you don't lose your horizontal inertia. So you want to kind of inherit whatever your current speed horizontally is, but Here it's like I think you have like a like physical force or something being added to after you jump, after it inherits the movement and stuff, instead of it just being like a certain velocity that gosh, I don't know how to explain that in words. um it's kind of like what I was talking about before, where it's like uh once you reach your max speed, you don't want to keep adding to it and that kind of thing. It's all related to that. But yeah, just simply put, I think you should have more air control and then more influence over your horizontal movement while you're in the air, and then just have that capped off properly. So I keep hitting that save. Why is there? What are these? Oh, there's two sparklies here. And there's a drone thing flying at me. What? Where was this? Pick up or equip. Why would I? I don't know what this is. You a bad thing? I assume you're a bad thing. Yeah, I don't like that. Even after you do this jumping attack, it just you have to sit there and watch this like animation after you land. Explode. Okay. All right, so let's look at our menu thing here. I haven't really looked at this properly. It doesn't appear that I can actually interact with this. I've picked up a few things that aren't these floppy disks, but I don't see them represented in here, so I don't know. I don't know if that menu is like meant to be functional yet or not, but it doesn't really appear very functional. Okay, we can climb that ladder. Several centuries old, but still locked tight. Oops, I didn't mean to hit that. How did I die? Okay. All right. It just brought me back here. So what's up with the health here? So I've noticed in the bottom right, there's like a little, it's like a little UI element, but I don't actually like looking at it. It doesn't really tell me anything that I can see. Oh, looks like pretty generous collision on those attacks. So that's kind of a nice thing to see. Okay. I open that up. Which button is? All right. Yeah. See, again, these transitions are like way slower than they need to be. Um, for this to not feel like it's just getting in the way. Because once I know I want to pick these things up, I'm just sitting. It just feels like I'm sitting here watching this fade to black transition while I'm like just trying to hit the button to pick the thing up. Um, so yeah, it's one of these things where, in particular, the longer the player plays the game, the more these kind of transitions just feel like they're in the way. Because yeah, they look cool, but the player doesn't really care about how it looks after a little while. It just becomes a functional thing. So in that way, it's like you're purely um, bringing down the functionality of it for the purposes of the looks. And after looking at it enough times, the player just doesn't care about. They don't value the aesthetic of it anymore, the way that they value the functionality. A little bit sketchy there. Yeah, just did that. Oh, so that okay. I think that's the first time I actually died from jumping off of somewhere, so that's very curious. Um, so yeah, up until now, I have every single time I've just leapt off a cliff, it just led me to somewhere else. But this time, when I fell down, I just died. So that doesn't appear to be consistent. Um, and sort of the rules that the game is presenting me here. I don't really know like how am I supposed to know if I'm just going to die or not? Because before I kind of thought I might just die if I jumped off those cliffs before, but then I was like, oh, well, apparently I didn't die, so it's kind of like almost a good thing I decided to do it, I guess. But then this time I just died, so that's really Very strange. If you do want to construct the game in that manner, I think what you probably want to do is, let me see this screen again real quick. Oh, okay. So you have, yeah, I see the idea here that you're going for. So what I was going to say is you want to have some kind of visual indication that this is a like a death zone. And now that I look at this, I can see that you have the little signs, but that didn't like read as what that was to me. Like it just seems like part of the environment, you know. I don't think that's a clear enough sort of description of what's going to happen here from falling down, in my opinion. So I think there's maybe better ways you could represent that. Because yeah, I don't think I would have realized that except I was like literally about to talk about that particular concept because I have that in my head. So that's why I came up and specifically looked for it to see if you had anything uh, like that. And that's why I noticed, okay, you have the signs there, but you know, other players, they won't, you know, they might figure that out, of course, but it's one of those things where it's like, um, also very well might not. And that's just really confusing. And like, again, like I said, it feels like the rules are inconsistent. This jump right here, trickier than it needs to be, especially when you consider that this is a death pit and you just die and you lose like a bunch of time if you miss a jump, which is kind of a simple thing to do. Because of the way that the jump mechanics work, the first time I fell in here, I didn't know how early I needed to press the button, which is kind of a tricky thing because it's one thing to like, it's one thing to press the button as soon as you get to the edge or whatever. Like that's a intuitive enough thing. It's another thing to like release the button as soon as you get to the edge. Um, that's certainly a doable thing. But when you have to like press the button at an earlier moment in order for the guy to this little like charging jump timer to end at the moment you reach the edge, that's like quite difficult to do. And on top of that, this is a long jump, so you almost have to do your full charge jump in order to make this, in addition to getting the timing just right. Very unforgiving. Because that's, yeah, because it's like if it didn't if it didn't just automatically jump after a certain amount of time and I could just hold that as long as I wanted to, that would probably, you know, maybe I just slide forward for a few moments or something, that would probably be a little easier to manage. The way it is, it's like much harder than it needs to be. So I noticed just now I was like sliding forward after I did that attack. Like it just seems to keep your momentum. And it seems like it'd be very easy to fall off a ledge like this. It's kind of silly to think about. Also, if I jump down here, like, is that just going to lead me somewhere else? Is this somewhere I've already been? I don't even know. Because again, I don't see like a death sign. I kind of feel like I'm afraid to investigate that because I might just lose a bunch of time. So can you just not? Okay, so you can't grab ladders like when you jump. It's just kind of unfortunate. Oh, that was weird. Wait, what? Apparently, if you're kind of close to the ground but on the ladder still, you can jump. I guess you can jump at any point. Okay, there's a little bit of weird stuff you can do. I think maybe it's just because I'm close to the ground and then... Okay, yeah. So I guess there's just sort of like a collision zone here, kind of close to the ground. So that... Okay, yeah, so if I'm in this collision zone and I jump, then I can grab this. That's how that works. So it doesn't actually need me to be on the ground. It just felt a little janky there just because it's... Usually it's like... Either you can grab the ladder in the air or you can't and you have to be on the ground. You know what I mean? Whereas here it's actually in this little collider, so it doesn't seem to follow either of those rules. So it got a little confusing there for the moment. Like I can do this kind of thing where it's like usually you can't do this unless the game specifically allows you to grab ladders in the air. You know what you know what I'm saying? So definitely felt a little bit weird and janky there for a moment. But yeah, I definitely recommend just letting the players just grab the ladder in the air. It's one of those things that feels nicer. in particular, like if I'm up here and I press jump. Oh, it actually. I'll put you on the ladder. Okay, yeah. So maybe you weren't considering that the players might just jump off here, which is, I mean, that's fine. I don't particularly dislike that it puts you on the ladder like that because it's almost kind of convenient from that point. But what is kind of unfortunate is that I can like climb all the way up here and I can press jump, but I can't like grab on to the ladder again up here. So again, like I said, if you could just jump, like if you could grab the ladder while you're airborne, that would kind of feel nicer. Now, if I did that here, I'm assuming this is just going to kill me, right? Oh, oh, interesting. Okay, so I guess maybe you have a different sort of collision or transition zones on the other sides of where this ladder is. Okay, so this guy, yeah, that robot behavior where he just kind of drifts towards you constantly. Oh, he kills you in one hit? What's up with that? Do I just like do I not spawn with health or something? I don't really know what I don't know how this works. But yeah, as you could see before there where I kind of lingered on that ladder for a little bit and that drone just kind of floated in the way. So I didn't really have time to get up and like deal with the drone because I was still on the ladder. Um, so yeah, you might want to like consider for the the behavior of the drone to like wait until you're closer to the drone or something before it just starts drifting towards you, or at least like somehow wait until you get off the ladder or something like that. All right, now here he comes, and I have to kind of wait. And this is kind of we flew back quite a ways. This is also just very slow to deal with, like just the amount of time it takes just to kind of kill a basic enemy. Um, Again, it kind of feels in general everything in the game so far has been kind of slow and deliberate, but in particular when you're dealing with this situation where it's like I died and I have to go back and do this part over again. And maybe I missed this jump more than once and I have to go back and do this all over again. Like adding in this element of having to wait and kill this enemy in the same way over and over again, and how long it takes, and make the game really start to drag on. So yeah, among everything else, I would consider things like that, just like the general amount of time it takes to kill a basic enemy, especially if it's not like really challenging in any way. Like that drone isn't doing anything. I'm just literally standing here and waiting for it to fly into the range and then pressing the button once and just standing here and waiting. Like I'm not doing anything interesting. So it's sort of like there's not really any justification for how the amount of time it takes, if that makes sense to you. So where am I at this point? Another ladder. So what if I just jump off? Or can you? Okay, that's ground. So I can go down here. I don't know why I would. Again, oh, that was unexpected. All right, so I wasn't expecting to go down a ladder and then just like free fall. Kind of interesting. So what you might want to do actually, and this is just a little thing, but I, in my mind, it makes sense. Like maybe you'd want to have after you go down the ladder and you transition over to this screen that you would appear at the top with like a little like ladder segment on like the top of the screen that you'd be climbing down, and then what the player could do is they could say, oh well, the ladder doesn't go down any further, but I could jump down if I want to, right? They could have that choice. And if they're like, oh well, I don't want to go down there right now, then they could just kind of climb back up, you know what I mean, instead of being forced to fall down. And again, I'm assuming if I jump down here I'll go somewhere else. There's just so many cliffs to jump off of in this game. It's really quite strange, actually. Yeah, and I'm not sure that's a good idea. It just seems like that's the kind of thing, like being able to jump off of somewhere that's difficult to get back up to where you were. That general idea is something that, like, I've seen things like that occasionally in games, but it's usually like a rare occurrence. Whereas in this game, it just seems like everywhere there's places that I can just jump off of in like uh, I don't know where I'm going to end up, and I have no idea how to get back to where I was or anything. So, notes about HVEP. I've lost the exhaust pump. Air intake and ventilation module. When charged, it allows the user to perform a second jump midair. Just press the jump button in the air once charging is complete. This internal battery powers a compact high-powered vacuum pump to control the airflow under pressure. Okay, it's a little bit fluffy, the description here. Okay, the battery is charged via the substance X core, which generates a charge over time as pressure is depleted. Used on the ground to accelerate equipment or in the air when additional height is required. After use, it will need to charge before it can build up air pressure again. Alright, so yeah, it's a little bit of a sort of fluffy description, trying to tell me some mechanics in a long-winded way. So yeah, okay, so it does have like a recharge, but then, oh, okay, so it does if fully depletes the little meter, and then you have to wait for it to fully recharge before you can use it again. So I was thinking for a moment that it might like it'll deplete if you use it over and over again, but you can use it. Like even if there's a small amount left in the meter that you could still use it again, and you can only not use it when it's empty. But it appears that you can. The rule is you can only use it when it's full. So um, yeah, that's interesting. It definitely seems to be a little stuck here. Oh, wait, what? Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, I can't really see my character at the moment to understand what it's doing because it's doing something weird in here. But yeah, not being able to see is making it very hard to understand actually what's going on at the moment. And I think, okay, I might be trapped in a falling state actually. Oh, I made it out. Okay, yeah. So something a little janky right there. I think that's a wall. See, it just feels like a normal thing to test whether there's a wall to the right or if I can walk it that way, but I don't want to fall back in that little spot there. Oh, well, hello. Start panic pressing buttons. Oh, okay. Well, I don't really know like how I'm supposed to fight that particular guy. He didn't really respond much to me hitting him. He just kind of hit me in return, and then I died. I don't know. I'm pretty sure before I had health, like I could take more than one hit before I died. Um, so I'm not sure if I just like I ran out of health or something, and the game just didn't give me more, or like it's just supposed to be the rule now, where you just don't you can't take more than one hit. I don't know. That's quite, especially when you consider how slow everything is. That's quite punishing to this idea that you can't take damage ever, if that's the idea. I did notice there's those sparkly things down and to the left there in the previous screen, as if I hadn't picked them up before. I think I don't know if they respawn after you die, or you know what the deal was there. Like I skipped over them before, I don't remember, but before I went down here, don't go down there. I mean, I got a pretty nice power up. This is locked. I don't think I have any keys. Oh, okay. So a little janky if I press jump there. I guess I had some weird collision with the environment there. I'm glad I got back out again. That was kind of funny. All right. I still don't know what the buttons are for interacting with things. Alright, so basically, yeah, really long-winded way to say that you I think all it was saying was that for one thing you had to wait for the thing to recharge before you could use it again, and the other thing was that you could use it on things other tam yourself or something like that. That's a really kind of long-winded explanation. Oh, he's really waiting right there, isn't he? Oh, here he comes. Am I just supposed to like run from this guy? Oh, what in the heck? Oh, whoa, 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 that was weird. Okay, so I was spamming the button to attack, and my guy was just doing this little animation over and over again, like he was like colliding with something or something like that, and it just wasn't doing anything. And then of course the guy unfroze and just killed me instantly. So yeah, very janky feeling. I'm not really sure like is the attack supposed to collide with things or something? I don't know what happened there. But yeah, again, like the general slowness of the game is also not working well with the frequent dying because I have to keep going through these like really mundane things over and over again. It's just like, okay, kill the enemy. That's the drone enemy that's extremely simple but takes a long time. Then I have to sit and watch myself climb this ladder. Then I have to sit here and wait and kill another one of these drone enemies. And it's like, this isn't like, it's not challenging me in any way. It's not really entertaining at this point because I've done this so many times. Gotta make this jump. And yeah, just kind of definitely works against you. This general idea of dying frequently um, is something that just inherently works poorly with a slow pacing in a game. You know what I mean? Like some games are kind of designed around dying frequently, where it lets you kind of quickly get back into things, and everything just kind of quickly picks up where you left off almost. Yeah. It might be that why is he why does he do that? Why I can't okay, I couldn't move because it was waiting for me. I was holding the left button. Oh, why didn't that work this time? I'm so confused though. Does this actually work? I wonder. And why does he only freeze some of the time? What's going on? Is he blocking it? Okay, very strange. Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. And also, okay, so if you're gonna have a power up, this just occurs to me. If you're gonna have a big power up like that, you're gonna want the player to be able to like save their progress after they pick it up, basically. You know what I mean? Um, because of something like this, it's just kind of frustrating to have to go through all this again. Because I obviously need to pick up that power up because it's just so important for the game. Um, but yeah, to have to face something that can make me lose all that progress after picking up something so important can be really frustrating. Um, so yeah, I would say, you know, I guess because you have these sort of built-in um, points where you restart after you die. It's checkpoints, I guess. I guess the game just kind of chooses a point to send you back to based on whatever after you die. Maybe you could just stick one of those, like after you pick up the power up or something like that. You know what I mean? That'd probably be a good idea. Um, yeah, I'm not really sure how much longer I should keep playing this. I understand I can just avoid that guy and try to run off somewhere else. It's just that the game doesn't really give me any indication that I can't kill him. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's doable, and therefore I feel like it just feels like a natural thing to just try and do it. Um, but I also get the impression that I could just not and just run away. But that's if you're not supposed to kill him, then that doesn't really seem like something that's communicated in any way. You know what I mean? It's just like a lot of people play like that, where it's just I can't. Okay, so I can't. As far as I know, let me wait to respawn here. Yeah, I can't attack upwards. So if one of those drones is over my head, like directly over my head, I literally can't. Like if I don't have room to do this whole jump thing, I can't do anything about it. So that's what happened before. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, I should probably wrap this up. I think I've probably seen enough so far in order to give feedback. I'm sure there's more to see, but it'll probably take a long time to to get through the rest of it, and I don't expect to have that much more to say about it. So yeah, so just in general, I think the the major thing is just the kind of the slowness of everything that I think would the game would be served well to work a lot of that out actually and just make things more responsive in general. Um, it's definitely one of those things where it's like even if you can pull it off in a way that really makes sense, there's going to be a lot of people who just aren't into that at all. Which is that's not you don't have to make it that's for everyone, that whole conversation. But the bigger part of it, I think, is that there's just so many ways for this to go wrong. You know what I mean? Um, that it's almost impossible to make a game that's this slow and deliberate work as an action game. You know what I mean? Um, without having these frustrating elements that kind of creep in about the player just not being able to respond to things as they happen on screen because they're just stuck in animations and all these other things. So yeah, just in general, I think it would work a lot better to have a lot more responsiveness and everything. And the other big thing, I guess, is just the general layout of the world. Um, like I said, just having this sense of I'm literally just wandering and jumping off of cliffs into weird places. I don't have any sense of like knowing where I am or where I'm going, so I think that could be improved a lot. Um, Especially because it appears to be sort of a Metroidvania, and there's some of these like important power ups that are hidden around, and um, naturally being able to find all those power ups and such is going to be an important part of the game. But if you don't have any idea where you are, then you can't really be expected to be able to like find everything that you need to and etc. So um, yeah, I would say those are the primary things that stand out to me. Obviously, this is still very early, and hopefully you were able to see some things that maybe you didn't consider yet that are just things to improve on, like jankiness here and there from this video. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next one.